Hey, what's going on everybody? Boilon here, and welcome back to another video on Lord of the Rings Home. Now today, we're going to be talking all about tank characters. Now my previous video when we were talking about star rank adjustments and things like that, we were talking about damage characters. We were talking largely about Legolas versus Elro here, with a few other damage characters sprinkled in. I was thinking about doing a healer video, but I don't know, we're doing tanks today. And so I want to talk about some of the upcoming tanks, which is going to be Gimli, who's going to be around in a week's time. Actually, as I'm recording this, we're not long away for the release of Legolas. Yes, I'm recording at like almost 3 in the morning, actually. I should stop doing that. That's why I'm not on screen today. But I want to talk about Gimli in respect to some of the other characters, some of the other tanks that are available, and especially the ones that are available free-to-play farm. And that's because if you're a free-to-play player who's only expected to get a 3-star Gimli, the question is, are you going to want to use him? Are you going to want to use him with Legolas? Or are you going to want to bench either one or both of them and consider some of these other free-to-play and faster farmable characters than Gimli? So that's what we'll find out in today's video. So if you're ready to go, everybody, then let's boil this down. And this is the crux of everything, right? Like, we started talking about this a couple of videos ago, and we're still going on about this because it does have a very large impact to what we're going to be expecting in the game. So this is the star multiplier value table that they presented to us. That's going to be changing. My guess is in probably about 3 weeks when the raids go live. Now, obviously, hopefully we have more details, both with regards to this and, you know, I honestly... I don't think they're going to backtrack, but there's been a lot of conversation both online with content creators and with within the Lord of the Rings Discord itself about all of this and how it impacts both free-to-play players and spenders, and how it might be pushing out sort of that middle tier of spenders, you know, the light spenders or medium spenders, because it's going to move towards more of whether or not you're in the 7-star, 6 or 7-star range for new characters, or you just completely ignore them because you're only getting that 3-star, which has no change at all, and you just go for the free-to-play farmable characters so that you can get the upgrades on these stats. Because, to be frank, it's very sizable. Especially when you get to 6 and 7-star, like, these are huge. So... It is very, you know, we saw with the Elro here in Legolas video that basically, you know, a 7-star Elro here is going to be much better than even a 5-star Legolas, just because the raw stats is just so insane. So unless some of the newer characters have, you know, huge base stat power creeps where, you know, a 3-star is viable, I think gone are the days are where, you know, where now, I guess, because it hasn't been updated yet, where, you know, 3 stars are viable for your characters. And this kind of cements for me anyways why I'm not pushing Arwen up any further, because I only have her at 3-star. Now, luckily for me, I did, you know, spend on Eldin, for example, for the elves. But for anyone who's, like, under 5-star, it almost makes it not worth doing, at least from a more competitive aspect. You know, if you're okay with building whatever at 3-star, then all the power to you. But for those of you who care about, you know, how strong your characters are, you're going to be wanting to consider characters that you can either farm quickly or farm eventually to 5-star or higher, because that's where you're going to make the biggest bang for your buck in terms of your stats. You know, 2.2x from the base stats is huge, especially over 3-star, you know, going from 1.2 to 2.2 at 5-star, and then just the 4.0 is just absolutely insane. So I haven't actually done them. I'm not doing any math in this video necessarily with table breakdowns with the characters, but I wanted to start by looking at Gimli's kit. I did this with Legolas. Let's zoom in again, because I have a bad habit of not pre-zooming in so you guys can see a little bit better. And what are we to gain? Now, on the surface, you're probably going to want to use Gimli and Legolas together. You know, I think I'm pretty sure I mentioned this anyways when we talked about Legolas. But he does have a basic attack that does, you know, a basic amount of damage here, and he gains might for 1 turn. That's pretty cool. But it's, you know, it's pretty basic, I would say. At least he gets a buff on his basic. Now he gets a special 1 deadly throw. Now his abilities are on a low cooldown, so I do like that part of Gimli's kit. 380% damage and inflicts weaken for 2 turns. That's actually not bad given the fact that it's on a 3-turn cooldown, so that's almost always going to be up to some extent. Now his special 2 is his taunt mechanic, so he gains 4 stacks of provoke at max level, and we're going to be taking a look at everything at the max level, and the reason for this is a lot of us are nearing towards level 60 or at least 55 plus, where, you know, we have the ability potentially to get some of these upgrades. So I think it's notable to start looking at it in this way. So 4 stacks of provoke, and then 2 stacks of defensive, which is, you know, block from Marvel Strike Force turns, and then 2 to the most and also to the 2 most wounded fellowship or dwarf allies. Now, I really wanted a dwarf team to work, or I wish there was a dwarf leader ability. There currently is none, and that's a little bit disappointing. None of the characters that exist on the doors right now have that. Otherwise, like, I would love to have tried some sort of dwarf team with Gimli, because I love dwarves. Grant these 3 stacks of regeneration for 2 turns to self and the 2 most wounded allies. So this is really good. Like, it's a good skill. And his passive, when a fellowship or dwarf ally drops below 75% health, retaliate against the attacker, and then dealing plus 75% bonus damage, and gain 1 stack of provoke and 1 stack of defensive to the ally who triggered it. Now, unfortunately, it only triggers once per ally, but if he has might, you know, if you use the basic and then you have that, and, you know, 75% is pretty easy to pass typically, and that's a lot of damage potentially going their way. And so it's unfortunate that it only happens once, and I kind of wish it would happen like more frequently, because that would be a really amazing, possibly broken mechanic, maybe, if you keep healing them back and forth. But I think that would have added more complexity, I suppose, to Gimli or a dwarf team, which would have been really nice. And I kind of wanted to let you guys know what's going on with my dwarves, because those are actually characters that I'm farming. I don't know why, I have this strange gut feeling that one day we're going to need to farm Fro because she's a minion, and we're going to need her for some sort of legendary event. I have this gut feeling. She is a pretty good tank, and she is farmable, and if anyone's been actually upgrading Fro or farming Fro since the beginning, then hey, maybe there's some value here for you, especially with the new star rank context, but I don't even have 2 stars, so that's not really a thing for me. I have been farming Keely, though, and Feely every single day, because I think that the Thorns Company team is going to be amazing when the characters come out. But obviously that's not yet, and we're probably sometime down the line, but I'm pre-farming them now just in case, because with the star rank adjustments, if there's any future team of characters that I'm going to want to play with, I'm going to want to make sure they're at least 5-star and above, because that's where you're going to you see a lot of benefit for the characters in terms of their star ranks and their stats. So Feely and Keely are both on my farm list, and I just wanted to kind of point that out. When you have that available, you should probably go for that, because, well, aside from Pro, they're the only other dwarves, but these are the 2 that you're going to want to have on a team together. It would be kind of interesting to see if we had more dwarves, if we could like add Gimli with Feely and Keely together, because they're healers. Well, sorry, one of them's a healer, and they have dwarf stuff on their kit as well. Next up, for another tank, I want to talk about Eldin. Now, we're kind of comparing different tanks, and we're comparing the viability of the free-to-play nature and maybe a little bit of the spending nature. But I mostly, my videos tend to focus strongly on the free-to-play viability. So going back to Gimli actually really quick, is that because that for free-to-play, we're going to be having him primarily at 3-star, I think that you have to ask yourself, I guess, are you using Legolas? Because if you're not, then you're going to want to use them together. And I don't think that when we talk about some of these other characters coming up, that a 3-star version of Gimli is going to suffice compared to a 6 or a 7-star or some of these other ones. Now, Eldin is a more recently paid one. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go through all his kit, actually, because you should know his kit by now, because we've been talking about him for some time. I have him upgraded, but that's because I have him at 5-star. And also because I have Elrond, so that's a completely different conversation. But yeah, 5-star on Eldin, so at least I'm going to see some benefits with the star rank improvements to, 2.2x. At my 5-star. So, you know, that's fine. I think 5-star is kind of the baseline of where you want your characters to be if you're going to be seriously using them. At least, you know, trying to get your way there. Now, the problem with Eldin, of course, is that he's probably going to be about a month or more, maybe 6 weeks from farm. You know, Arwen's kind of just gone into the gem store, so I think that for Arwen to go farmable, we're looking at another 4 weeks, and then I guess that would be 2 weeks behind for Eldin, so probably was 6 weeks for him. So in the near term, you know, you're not going to be able to rely on being able to get more shards for him. If you are a spender, though, Eldin is the, I think, even still a better tank than Gimli, even after what I've seen. If you're a spender, where is it? Here. It's still here for 15 more days. So if you want to whale out and Kraken out on more shards for Eldin, you know, 5-star plus or even a 7-star, then go right ahead, you know, because with those upgrades coming in with the star ranks, you know, that's how you're going to get there. But obviously for free-to-play players, you're not going to be able to do that. So take that with a grain of salt. Next up on the list is Eldin. Now, I have him actually, where is he in my roster? Eldin is 4-star. I might go back to farming him because I do have him at gear 6, I think. I stopped putting stuff into him a little bit, but he's level 50. So I think I'm going to go back to farming his shards, actually. Because if I can get him up to 5-star, that would be a pretty big stat boost. And while I don't use him as part of my main team, he is fairly geared a little bit. And if there is some reason where I might want a second team, for example, then all the more reason why maybe I should... He's free to play farmable. All the more reason why maybe I should keep going with Eldin, because my original arena team was the Rohan 3, which was Eldin, Aylmer, Eowyn, and then I used like Ironhide, Troll, and Strider. And that's another conversation. I know that I should have probably brought Strider up, actually, when it came to talking about damage characters. And so I'm just going to plug him in here really quick. But Strider being a free-to-play accessible character because you get shards from him daily and from the quests, I almost have him at 6-star. Now, I have been playing since the start, so not everyone's going to be here, but he is a character that you're getting shards for every single day. And so with the shard boosts, you know, if you can get him up to 6-star or even eventually at 7-star, there's a good chance that actually those star rank stats alone is going to make him worth using. Maybe that even brings it into play the Road to Rivendell, and I'm actually sad to even say that because Road to Rivendell makes me cry a little bit, but this might be a completely separate video, I think, when it comes to talking about that team. But I just wanted to point Strider out there anyways. So Eldin is a pretty good tank. You know, he was basically, it says right there. I mean, I think Tana wrote that. But anyways, he is pretty much the best free-to-play tank available. More or less, for the light side. We're going to talk about a few others. Actually, I had Pro on the list, but we're going to skip over that. We're going to talk about the best character on the shadow side, though. And that's Ugluk. Now, he is the best shadow tank on the team. And for Shadow, also for the Isengard team. But the reason why I want to talk about him is because he is rapidly farmable. Actually, there's a lot of characters that are rapidly farmable in Guild Chapter 1, namely Ironhide, who we already talked about. I don't really want to talk about Edric because I don't think he has good synergy or standalone value at the moment. But Ugluk is 1-1. Now, some people wanted me to bring up something called the opportunity cost. Now, if you're in the early game or the mid game and you don't have Chapter 5 unlocked, then this is a great time for you to farm characters like Ugluk, like Ironhide Troll, like even Pippin, honestly, because you're not that far. And so you'll be farming something anyways, you might as well do it here. And so if you're not farming Ugluk, Pippin, or Ironhide Troll, then you're probably farming Chapter 3 for Elro here. So it depends. Now, it sucks for someone like me, who obviously has Chapter 5 unlocked, and I can farm this, and you get a lot of gold and purple ability materials. So I've kind of sucked this up, and I've kind of gone back to Chapter 3. I'm farming Elro here to 6-star, and then I'm going to go back and farm Ironhide to 6-star, and then I'm going to reevaluate from there. I'm probably going to take both of them to 7-star, but it is quite the hit to my resources when I can be farming Chapter 5, and I'm not doing that. My hope is that eventually some characters get moved into Chapter 5 and makes it, a 2-for-1, or even Chapter 4 as a 2-for-1. But right now I'm having to take a bit of a hit on my resources, but longer term, I still think that this is worth doing. So Ugluk is basically almost a top 5 character in the game. Honestly, his kit is really good, and especially if you're using his leader ability, when he's going to have bonus stats, he is so beefy, and he blocks so frequently when you actually level him up, and when he blocks, he actually inflicts a debuff, which then just triggers his own leader ability, which is really great. Heals all squad members for 2.5% of their max health. It's not of Ugluk's max health, though. It's actually of that character's max health, so him being stronger doesn't necessarily improve the heals for everyone else, but nonetheless, Ugluk is still a very strong character. He's also very fast. So if you can get him to 7-star, I wouldn't be surprised if he'll be good standalone. Honestly, you could just chuck him into an arena by himself because he's going to survive forever on 7-star stats. The other character that I do want to talk about, and the last character on this video, is going to be Wu Beite, and that's because he is farmable in the arena. Or sorry, not the arena store, the guild store. And I do have him at almost 5-star. He's also Haradrim, and I have this strange feeling that maybe soon that we're actually going to get some adjustments to Haradrim. We're going to finally get those 2 added characters that I wish was now instead of the Fellowship characters. But he is a very good character. So I'm getting shards for him right now. I'm almost at 5-star. I'm kind of balancing between buying Wu Beitei shards and like still buying some crystals, because I still do this from time to time in the store. But yeah, I really like his kit, namely this. I've talked about this before. The horizontal slash that's not actually a slash because he's basically chucking a grenade. Now, this does AoE damage, but it also inflicts slow for 2 turns. And that's really huge in a turn-based game. So if you could get Wu Beitei to 7-star, and he has slow for 2 turns, his focus stat, sometimes he has a hard time landing this at lower stars, but with the stat changes coming in, this is actually going to be really good. And so these are some of the characters who are easily farmable right now, who I wouldn't be surprised if, they're better. Well, they will be better from a stat perspective, at 7-star versus some of these other characters who you might only be able to get to 3-star or a very slow farm. I can actually get, if I was pushing shards for Wu Beitei a little bit faster, I would already have him up past where he is right now. I just kind of stopped for a little while and wasn't buying shards because I didn't really have a reason, because back during the previous stats, like, it just wasn't that sizable, right? Like 2.0 is fine, but it wasn't like a huge deal over some of these other things, right? Like, it just wasn't over 5-star, 4-star. It wasn't as dramatic as this. And so part of me hopes that they scale this down, but I don't know if they're going to. Like, I think that the 4x is really dramatic. I feel like 7-star at 3x would have been better, and then like 6-star at 2.5 would have been better, and it didn't scale as rapidly as this. But that's just me. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Those are just some of my tank picks. I think that the free-to-play character choices are going to be much better, especially the ones like Ugluck, for example, who is easily and rapidly farmable. But even characters like Wu Beitei are going to be pretty strong as well. Now, if you're a spender, well, obviously, maybe you're going to spend on Gimli or Eldin, or you already have a 7-star Eldin, and this video is not really worth it to you. But for everyone else, I hope that this was helpful anyways in just examining some of the tank characters that are up for grabs, and what your plans might be in terms of your farm. So we'll be doing a follow-up video again for the healers, and then I think we might do a wrap-up in terms of what I'm doing in my game and what I'm doing upcoming for the star changes. So that's it, everyone, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.